Chapter 11. Congratulations, Col, on the award. It's wonderful news. Mrs. Holden had sought him out in the corridor at school. Everyone was congratulating him, from his own classmates right up to the headmaster. And now, surprise, surprise, even Mrs. Holden. It's an honour for the school too, she told him. I don't know whether I'll go, he said sullenly. But you must go, Col. An all expenses paid trip to London, meeting so many interesting people. She paused and added as if surprised as much as Col, people as brave as you. It's just not my scene, he said, and walked away from her. They all thought he should go, everyone, even Blakey, who had beamed at him as he came in through the school gates that morning. You're so lucky, Col. I wish I could go to London. Can I fit in your case? Even Paul Baxter hurried towards him. Col, any chance of you writing something about your trip for the school magazine? It would make a great story. Do I look like a reporter? He had snapped back. But in spite of that, something had changed in Paul's attitude towards him. He wouldn't let it go. Maybe we could do an interview when you come back. Congratulations, by the way. And he had patted Col on the back and moved off. Col wanted to be angry, wanted Paul Baxter to know he was angry. He was a McCann. He wasn't the type to be patted on the back and congratulated by the likes of him. He wanted to run after him, challenge him to a fight. Instead, he just stood there in the playground, glaring. Only Denny understood. Your Mungo won't like it. Back in the papers again, eh? And that was the worst part. Denny was right. When Col had gone home from the Sampsons and told his brother about the word, Mungo had leapt to his feet, angrier than Col had ever seen him. Did that family never give up? You're not going, and that's that. Col had already decided he wasn't going, because he knew the trouble it would cause. But Mungo ordering him not to go only got his back up. What's your problem with this, Mungo? He shouted at him. It's a free trip to London. See, you've changed already. You want to go to London. I'll take you to London. What do you want to go with the Sampsons for? Think they're better than us? Is that it? Col thought he understood then. Mungo was afraid that seeing how the Sampsons lived would make him prefer them to his own family. You and Mam can come as well, they said. I've already said I would only go if you two came. You're my family. Mungo sneered at that. Me and Mam go anywhere with that bunch? You've got to be kidding. I knew this wouldn't be the end of it. I just knew it. And it wasn't. That very night, Bobby Grant came knocking at the door. What the hell do you want? Mum said angrily as she saw him. Get your hair on, Mrs. McCann. For once it's not Mungo I'm here to see. It's your son Col, hero of the hour. For once, I'm going to be able to say something nice about your family. He didn't get another word out. From somewhere inside the house there was a fierce battle cry and Mungo suddenly appeared and dived at the reporter. He was caught totally unawares. 1 second he was standing on the doorstep and the next he was tumbling down the front stairs, locked in a wrestling hold with Mungo. Mungo had him on the ground and was ready to pound a fist into his face. It was only Mam who stopped him. Mungo, for goodness sake, let him go, she screamed at him as she ran down the steps to pull him apart. Help me, Col. Together they managed to wrench the struggling Mungo to his feet. Bobby Grant sat on the ground and rubbed his chin. He had a smarmy, insolent smile on his face. You're always good for a story, Mungo. Mungo snarled back at him. Don't get on the wrong side of me, Bobby boy. I can make you very sorry. Bobby Grant scoffed at the threat. You're a small-time thug, Mungo, nothing else. Who do you think you are? Al Capone? That really made Mungo angry, and he struggled to get to him, but Mam and Col held him fast. "He's no worth it, Mungo," Col said. The brawl had alerted the neighbours. Some peeked out of their doors or drew net curtains back warily to see the cause of the commotion, only to step back in and hide quickly when they saw that Mungo was involved. "You think I'm a small-time crook? Ha! You know nothing. Nothing!" Mungo yelled. "You wait and see." Mam stood between her sons and the reporter. "Be in your way. You'll not get a story here tonight." He did, though. The next day there was a piece about the award and the brawl. It also said the McCanns were not available for comment. More trouble from Mungo and his mother wasn't any help. "They can send you the award. You don't have to go," she said. Added to everything else, winter rushed back with a vengeance, and the nights were once again bone-crushingly cold. Col remembered Klaus in one of the air raid shelters up by the loch. He'd be freezing and probably hungry. He sat by the fire after tea one night, toasting his toes, and exhausted after another tirade from Mungo about the story in the paper. His mother had gone off to her bingo, but Col couldn't stop thinking about Klaus. He could still smell his mother's broth, still feel its warmth in his stomach. "I bet Klaus could fair go some of that broth," he thought. Mungo would never know. Col knew now he would never risk Mungo following him or finding out about Klaus. He didn't want to leave the fire, but at least, he consoled himself, he had the fire to look forward to when he came back home. He filled a flask with soup, stuffed some bread in a bag, and, as an afterthought, an old doovie his mother was always planning to take to the homeless hostel in town. As he made his way up towards the loch, Col worried about how he would find Klaus. But he needn't have worried. Klaus found him. As he stood once more transfixed at the spot where he had saved Dominic, all the fears, all the terrors rushing back at him. "I'm mad to come here," he told Klaus. "When I come here, I'm back in that water again, freezing and frightened," and he shivered. "Then why did you come?" Klaus asked. He looked even paler, Col thought, paler, thinner, more unkempt. In answer, Col shoved the bag with the duvet and the flask in it at him. "Here, I brought you these. It's a blinking cold night." Klaus sounded puzzled. "You brought me this? Why?" He didn't know why. He couldn't answer that. It wasn't like him. He shrugged. "Maybe I lost my brain when I fell in the loch." "Maybe you found yourself," Klaus said in a soft voice. "Don't talk wet," Col groaned. Klaus smiled. "You're not a bit like your brother." Col jumped angrily to his defence. "Don't you say a word about my brother. He's the best." "He hates my kind," Klaus reminded him. "Why should he know? You come here, take our jobs, lives, office. Why don't you just go back to your own country?" He heard himself repeating exactly what he always heard Mungo saying. "I want to, Col. You don't know how much I want to," Klaus said. "So why don't you?" Klaus shoved his hands deep into the pocket of his anorak and shivered. Col saw fear in his face and thought he understood why. "You're frightened they wouldn't send you home. They'd put you in jail. Is that it?" Col thought of him in his cold dungeon hideaway. "Even jail's got to be better than this." Klaus shook his head. "Not jail, Col. I've never done anything wrong in my life. I only wanted to make money for my family." "But you can't stay here forever." "I don't want to," Klaus said. His face brightened. "Maybe you can help me get home." That made Col laugh. "Me? I can't even help myself. I've got no money." "You helped Dominic and you didn't have any money." Col laughed. "Jump in the loch then and I'll fish you out." Claus managed a faint smile. He was a foreigner, Col thought. Probably didn't share his sense of humour. Claus took him to the shelter where he was hiding out. It was dirty and damp and icy cold. Claus wrapped himself in the duvet and told Col all about himself, the village where he came from, all about his family. His mother, who laughed a lot. His sisters, one who wanted to marry and have plenty of babies, and the other who wanted a career in beautiful clothes like the models she saw in the tattered old magazines. They want a good life, Col, like everyone else in the world. It seemed to Col that he told them every detail about his life. So long, Col thought, since he'd talked to anyone about it and had anyone to listen. And Col told him about the award and the trip to London. Why don't you go? Claus asked him. It would be an adventure. That's what my teacher says, but I can't. Mungo wouldn't like it. My mother wouldn't come with me, and I'm not going with them by myself. He paused. Anyway, I don't want to go. Claus stared at him for a long while, saying nothing. But you do, he said at last. And Col knew it was true. He did want to go to London, but Mungo would never let him.